Hello everybody. How's everybody doing? A viewer of mine had asked me to review a debate between Vegan Gains, Richard, and Matt Dillahunty. And obviously, if you know anything about Vegan Gains, the debate was about animal rights and the morality, the ethics surrounding people eating animals. And because I like reviewing debates, I figured I'd do this one as well.
It's my understanding that you believe that morality is objective, at least to some extent, and you share a lot of the same views on morality as Sam Harris?
Yes. As a matter of fact, I just said that a few minutes ago.
Right. So Sam Harris says moral values are truths about the well-being of sentient beings.
No.
And, no?
Well, I won't say no. The particular phrase that he used in Moral Landscape was thinking creatures, not sentient. Sentient isn't particularly well defined because some people in some categories use sentient as anything that can feel pain, and others use sentient to talk about whether or not something has some level of cognitive reasoning abilities.
If you're ever in a debate with an ethical vegan and they start jabbering about sentience this, sentience that, make sure you make them define what sentience means to them and make sure you make them stick to that definition. All right? Just a little tip there. Now, there are a lot of problems with the sentience, and that will be exposed in my next debate with Conscientious Omnivore, hopefully. But for the time being, we're just going to leave it at that. Sentience is very problematic. Make sure you define it well and stick to that definition.
So, sentient label doesn't do me much good. Now, Sam at other times may have used the word sentient or not, but what Sam says or thinks about morality isn't in any way something I'm beholden to. We didn't want to do it that night. Just outlandish claims about my views.
So
something different.
Right.
I don't care if Sam said something different.
So, what Gaines was trying to do there, seems like it to me anyway, was use a strawman argument, misrepresent Matt Dillahunty's position, and Matt wouldn't let him, right? He says, whatever Sam Harris says, that's Sam Harris. You're named the trait trick, which is what Vegan Gains is employing over here without using the name the trait. It's a personal moral consistency test, right? It's not about what you think is moral. It's not about what Sam Harris thinks is moral because you're drilling, questioning, interrogating me. It's about what I think, right? So don't misrepresent right off the bat my position because that is known as the strawman fallacy, and I won't have it.
Right. Okay. So I remember in it was during, like, it's an old video from August, but in that Atheist Experience live show, you said that your views on experience from August.
Just a little thing. It's kind of irrelevant, but I like to watch body language. You see Matt Dillahunty's eyes go up when Richard says video from August. That's him reaching into his memory bank. Pretty fascinating stuff.
But in that old video from August, but in that Atheist Experience live show, you said that your views on animal morality are speciesist. So
yes.
With that, did you mean that it is okay to kill animals and, let's say in the context, like, needlessly when you don't need to? So if you're at a grocery store, if you have access to a grocery store and you can either choose to eat a fully vegan diet or if you choose to eat an omnivorous diet, it's okay to needlessly kill an animal for food just because it's a different species than you? Is that what you meant by...
As soon as... The first time Gaines said needless, Matt didn't seem to catch it because he kind of snuck it in there if you pay attention. But the second time he said it, look at Matt's eyes. He immediately, as soon as Gaines said needless, it triggered him, and Matt started accessing his RAM, right? He started wheels started churning, and he already was working on a response as soon as he heard needless.
Just because it's a different species than you? Is that what you for food just because it's a different species than you? Is that what you meant by speciesist?
Yeah, so this is the thing what I mean about people arguing dishonestly, because when you say, is it okay to needlessly kill an animal, you are injecting all sorts of context into this. My position is really simple. I am not convinced that eating meat is immoral.
So basically what he's saying is that he is morally neutral when it comes to eating meat. He's not going to say it's good. He's not going to say it's bad. He's open to the idea that it could be good, but he hasn't been convinced that it's bad. And when he points out that Richard uses the word needless, he is shifting the burden of proof, because for him to first and foremost say that it is needless, and this might be me editorializing a little bit too much, this is how I see it. First you have to prove that it is needless. In Matt's case, he takes a slightly different approach to that, but he's not convinced basically that it's wrong. You can't just say off the bat that it's needless without proving that it's needless, and veganism has not met the burden of proof. It doesn't matter what vegans say, and I think Matt Dillahunty might be one of the brainwashed carnivores who believe that veganism is somehow a healthy diet for a carnivore, which is nonsense. But a lot of people who aren't vegan themselves have been brainwashed by this propaganda, the vegan agenda, right? But you know, I am still waiting for an argument as to how it's needless for a carnivore to eat meat. You know what I'm saying? So vegans have not met the burden of proof. Okay, and they're already assuming the higher moral ground without having done that. That's very dishonest. It's essentially moral fagging is what it is.
Okay, well,
but once again, Matt says that, look, I'm not convinced that it's bad. This is what we do. We've done this forever. This is how our society operates. You're the tiny vocal minority coming out that it's saying that it's wrong. The burden of proof is on you. You can't just say it's needless. You have to prove that it is. If needless is the criteria, right? Which is actually vegan gain sneaking in another axiom there. Because if sentience is the criteria, what's this needless thing all of a sudden, right? So what he's saying is that he's basically saying that animals aren't food, but they are, right? But that's another trait that has to be agreed upon in order for the name the trait trick to work in this particular instance, right? It has to be assumed and agreed upon that animals aren't food. Well, tough luck, buddy, because they are, so you can't say they aren't, because they are. We need them. They're our food source. You have to prove that it is needless, and you haven't done that, right? You're shifting the burden of proof. And you're misrepresenting my position, because my position, this is Matt Dillahunty, is I'm morally neutral when it comes to this.
there needs to be a context. I mean, if you needed to eat meat to survive, like if you were an indigenous person and you lived in a tribe, I'd say it is morally acceptable to eat meat because you need to survive. But you're obviously not in that position. You have access to a grocery store. You don't need to kill animals to live and be healthy. So
this is a blatant contradiction. Since we're talking about personal, morality tests, consistency, moral consistency tests, as we all know, those of us who know anything about Gaines, ever since he got on the vegan diet, his mental and physical health have been suffering greatly. So for him to sit there and say that Matt Dillahunty can be healthy on the vegan diet when vegan himself knows that he cannot is maybe not dishonest, but definitely deluded and out of touch with reality, right?
I put it in that context, because that's
so I don't accept the idea that need is the criteria. When I say I'm speciesist, I don't see anything wrong.
So he called him out on it, right? On sneaking in another trait. Need is not the criteria. Not for me. It's the well-being of everybody, right? That's how my morality works. But Gaines has to sneak in all these other axioms and confuse the conversation, because name the trait, it doesn't work. It's just a stupid trick.
With that.
Stupid, dishonest trick that breaks all the rules when it comes to the vegan that it tells you you cannot break, and those are very artificial rules to begin with, and they completely reject reality just to from the very beginning. And the vegan realizes this when the argument gets flipped on the vegan and he starts adding in other traits, right? Because humanity or morality is not based on any one single thing, right? It's always a collection of factors, traits, what have you.
Okay? What we're talking about is what rights we're going to extend. And rights are the product of thinking beings, and they are they don't exist independent. It's not like rights are out there, you know, as some sort of naturalistic product. We grant rights, and we make decisions about who we're going to grant rights to and who we're not.
So you basically have to have a good, solid argument for why we should give animals rights, and you haven't presented one. You just assume that they should have rights because sentience. That's not an argument. It's not a valid argument.
Okay, well, there is... Sorry, go on.
So, when I'm talking with people who are arguing for ethical veganism, what they tend to get wrong is I have plenty of objections to the way meat is arrived at in a number of different scenarios. I have objections to certain types of factory farming scenarios and everything else. But I don't think that eating meat is in and of itself immoral.
So you just called out this non sequitur argument that vegans always use, right? Because factory farming is bad, eating meat is bad. No. If you want to argue that factory farming is bad, that's where the argument stays, right? Factory farming is bad. We could argue that. But just because you may agree that that's bad, from that does not follow ethical veganism, period, right? I hope that makes sense.
Okay, well, I don't either.
Cool.
Like, if you find a dead animal on the side of the road and eat it, there's nothing immoral about that. Like,
right.
Same with finding a dead human on the side of the road and eating it. That might be really weird.
No, there is something immoral about that.
Do you hear other people laughing in the background? So, Vegan Gains just exposed himself as a completely immoral person, right? Somebody who pretends to have the higher moral ground, animal rights activist, ethical vegan, all these things, who thinks that it's okay to eat dead people, right? Of course it isn't okay to eat dead people. Why? Because they have human rights. That's why. But a lot of these ethical vegans, the sort of argumentative strategy that they use, name the trait, and they tell you this explicitly, some of them, is designed to take people's human rights away from them and or give animals human rights. These aren't ethical people, these are very evil people, those that are. Another way in which ethical veganism debunks itself, if you let these vegans talk long enough, they expose themselves as psychopathic, completely unethical, while at the same time pretending to be morally correct people, right? Just another way in which ethical veganism refutes itself.
There is something immoral about that.
What? Like, I can agree that it's disgusting, and somebody who does that is probably has problems. But I mean, the thing is, you're not causing harm to another person.
See, this is the problem. This is the problem with you and a number of others. You have this view of morality that it is essentially about a simplistic notion of causing harm, and morality is.
Well, no.
Yes, that's what you just went to. You're arguing that it's okay to eat a human on the.
Of course he does, right? He always says sentient, 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 and the well-being of sentient beings, right? And now he's saying, no, I don't. Yeah, you have reduced our morality or the animal moral value to one single trait when it doesn't work that way. That's a simplistic view, and it just doesn't work, right? Because if I flip that around on you, and Matt didn't even have to do that because Vegan Gains volunteered that information like a dummy, or maybe he's just psychopathic and he really believes that it's okay to do these things. right? Because if sentience is the only reason why we respect other human beings, then yeah, it is okay to eat other human beings. But 99.9999999% of people out there are not only not vegan, but they would disagree that it's okay to eat dead people that don't have any family members, right? Because it's not moral. Jesus. Veganism debunks itself, man. It's nonsense.
Side of the road because you're not causing harm. Well, fundamentally, you are wrong in the sense that that is not the only criteria to consider.
That is not the only criteria to consider, right? Our humanity, our morality is based upon a lot of different criteria. So name the trait is a joke.
And you are wrong about whether or not it causes harm. We are in a social construct. We are in a social construct, in a contract with other human beings. It is wrong for me to eat. It is wrong for me to eat another human being, not just not because of any direct effect on them after they're dead, but because there are people who care about that human being, and because it affects the quality of their life leading up to that. There's a reason we respect the wishes of people with regard to what we're going to do with their bodies after they're dead. It's not because Don tells me he wants me to treat his body in a certain way after he's dead. He doesn't want me to farm out his organs. He doesn't want me to eat him. He wants me to place him in a box and bury him in the ground and put a little A there. I respect Don's wishes, not because when he's dead it will affect him. I respect his wishes because the entirety of his life, he will live his life either with a good, sound conviction that his wishes will be respected, which makes the quality of his life better, or he will live with an anxiety that his wishes won't be respected, which diminishes the quality of his life.
And I would add to that, that not only does it diminish the quality of Don's life, but it's likely to diminish the quality of everybody else's life, because if we don't respect that social contract, everybody's going to live with this anxiety. And moreover, if people are living with this anxiety knowing that the social contract will not be respected after they die, then what incentive do they have to respect the social contract when they are alive? Meaning that if you allow for people to eat each other after they die, and I know, for example, that my body won't be respected, it's going to be desecrated, well then I might as well just start desecrating not just dead people, but people that are alive and well, right? What binds me to the social contract when you're already telling me that you're not going to respect it when it comes to me, right? So yeah, it would decrease everybody's quality of life and everybody's well-being, which is what both Matt and Vegan Gains allegedly base their morality on, right? Everybody's well-being. So for Vegan Gains to suggest that it's okay to eat dead people, he doesn't care about well-being of people, right? Once again, he refutes his own ideology.
Okay, well, first of all, there you have a bit of a contradiction. You're going back
while saying that it's Matt who's the one with the contradiction. He just projects his own errors onto other people. This the kid is so lost.
to well-being.
That is what I say the foundation of morality is. How is it? Where's their contradiction?
The foundation of morality is well-being, right? Social contract being a manifestation of that morality, part of that morality. We respect each other because we know we're going to be respected, right? Because I want my well-being to be preserved, I'm going to do my best not to fuck with your well-being, right? So from this desire, or, you know, from basing your morality on well-being, follows the social contract. But Vegan Gains says it's a contradiction when one logically follows from the other, right?
Right, okay. And secondly, you seem to be claiming that the basis for morality is social contract?
No, it's well-being from which social contract logically follows, right? But because Vegan Gains has brainwashed himself with this name the trait trick, I don't think he understands how the trick works, to be honest with you. He thinks it's like this holy grail or something. It's just a stupid trick, man. What this trick has brainwashed Vegan Gains to do is to simplify everything and separate and compartmentalize everything into one single thing. And when you hear this, exactly when he, or ask yourselves, when they debate people, they say they want to take things off the table, they want to break everything down and talk about this first, and then another issue next, and they want to take everything out of the context of humanity or overall morality, and they want to break it down into little pieces and basically hammer you into a corner is basically how they argue. But it just doesn't work that way, because name the trait is the fallacy of a single cause. The reason why we have the sort of morality that we do, it doesn't come from one single trait, right? It comes from humanity, or a basket of a variety of traits. Okay, so it's completely illogical to begin with, but because he has brainwashed himself with this tactic to ignore the complexity of reality and break it down into simple parts thereof that are somehow supposedly independent of one another, he doesn't seem to understand how our code of law, code of conduct, morality, if you will, follows from our desire to preserve well-being, that our moral framework is based in well-being of everybody.
No, I've said repeatedly, just literally 10 seconds ago, that my foundation for what I view as morality is well-being.
And that's exactly what he just said, right? From my morality, objective morality follows from well-being, right? Well-being is the basis, and from that follows the social contract.
Okay, so if I were to just shoot somebody in the back of the head, they have no friends and family, so it couldn't affect anyone else, that would be moral because it doesn't really affect their well-being.
No.
This dude is just, he's just awful. I don't understand how dumbed down or ideologically possessed does our society have to be for so many people to think that when Vegan Gains does this in debates, that he's somehow winning the debate, when he's being completely illogical.
No, and this is the same type of thing that Matt Slick presents when he talks about, hey, if I could sneak in and rape somebody in a hospital bed and nobody ever found out about it, then no harm's been done.
Right.
No, I just gave you the exact answer to that. It's not about whether or not you got away with it. It's about what kind of society we promote. And if we live in a society where we know that somebody can just come along and rape you in a hospital bed or shoot you in the head as long as they're going to get away with it, that diminishes your quality of life leading up to that.
Okay, well...
It is about ensuring our well-being now by talking about what types of rights and protections we are going to guarantee to ours.
Once again, from our desire to preserve the well-being of everybody follows a certain code of conduct that has to be respected in order for people's well-being to be preserved, right? But Vegan Gains seems to think that they're somehow separate, which allows him to believe that it's okay to eat dead people when it isn't, right? This is why he is so out of touch with reality, and this is why the guy he's a psychopath. He just doesn't understand how society works.
Okay, so you're basically claiming that it's okay to needlessly kill animals because they're not a part of our social contract and it doesn't affect us.
Okay, that was just a complete strawman argument. That's not what he was saying. And they're gonna just start going in circles, and Matt's gonna get frustrated and blah 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 blah. I don't even want to deal with this, because Vegan Gains just stacks fallacies on top of fallacies. He misrepresents what's being said. He doesn't understand the most basic of arguments. He has no clue how society actually works, and that from, once again, well-being, or a desire to respect well-being, follows a certain code of conduct. He seems to think that they're somehow separate. All this guy is really saying is that he just doesn't understand how the world works, and he has a very poor grasp of logic. And that should explain to everybody why this guy is a sociopath, a psychopath. Maybe not quite a sociopath. I don't know what he actually has done. But he's a psychopath. So much as he pretends to care about well-being, he doesn't understand what it actually takes to preserve well-being in society and what it is, what well-being actually is, because he thinks that even though most people out there would find it abhorrent and they wouldn't want to live in a society where dead people who don't have any family, let's say, are being eaten, right? Because it diminishes their well-being, because they live with this anxiety, as Matt puts it, that the same thing might happen to them. And they just think it's objectively wrong to eat other people. And there are a lot of different reasons why that is, right? But Vegan Gains doesn't seem to understand that the well-being of the individual is very much dependent upon the well-being of the group, right? Because the way he argues for veganism is to compartmentalize everything. It's a very selfish way of looking at things. It's a very, you know, it's psychopathy, right? He doesn't understand that the individual is part of a larger group, and how there's always an interplay between the individual and the group, and this well-being of the individual is very much dependent on the group, and vice versa. He's just brainwashed himself with this argumentative tactic, which is a fallacy of the single cause. Name the trait, trick, game is the fallacy of a single cause, because hardly anything in our life, especially something as complex as morality or laws, if you will, social contract, it never has a single cause, right? There's a variety of reasons why we do these things. There's a variety of reasons why we respect each other. There's a variety of reasons why we need to preserve our well-being, right? It's not just because we're sentient. Of course it's not. It's because we're part of families. It's because we're part of the larger human family, which is speciesism, right? It's because, well, you know, do unto others as you would like them to do to you, or however the axiom goes, is a truism. This is just how the world works, right? And Vegan Gains doesn't understand that, because he is not this person that he presents himself as being. He is not some kind of ethical person, because he believes it's okay to eat dead people, right? His worldview is completely incoherent, it's contradictory, and it's self-refuting. And he's not a very bright guy anyway. But that's my critique of this debate. It just devolved into BS after that, so I don't want to go through it anymore. Matt was just repeating what he had already said, because Vegan Gains is a bigot who doesn't listen to what people are saying, and it seems very difficult for him to assimilate new information after he had become ideologically possessed by the self-refuting nonsense that is veganism. Hope you liked the video. Give it a thumbs up. What else are you supposed to do? Oh yeah, rate, comment, subscribe, do all that good stuff. And thanks for watching.